The November 28th, 2023 meeting of the Public Safety Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess is present. Mr. Colby. Mr. Colby is present. Mr. Delahanty. Mr. Delahanty is present. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman is present. Chairman Dondorf.
Here.
Chairman Dondorf is present. Ms. Hugh Smith. Ms. Hugh Smith is present. Mr. Milne. Mr. Milne is present. Mr. Missoula. Mr. Missoula is present. Mr. Morris. Mr. Morris is present.
Is there anyone signed up for the public forum?
There is not.
Is there anyone present who is not signed up to speak who would like to address the committee at this time? Seeing none, I would like to introduce Robert Franklin, CFO of Monroe County, who is here to present the 2024 proposed Monroe County budget as it pertains to the Public Safety Committee. We will have the questions answered following the presentation.
Let's drag this out a little longer. Hooray. Thank you for attending our budget presentation to the Public Safety Committee. Public safety is the second largest segment of expenditures in Monroe County's budget. It accounts for about 23% of total spending. In terms of budgetary growth next year, this area of the budget is increasing by $39.4 million. It's about 13.7% over the adopted budget for 23. Within the context of the overall growth in next year's budget, this area is the second largest contributor, representing almost 1/3 of the total budgetary growth of $119.9 million in our proposed appropriations. Some people measure the size of government by the number of staff. Well, in total, the number of budgeted staff positions within the whole county is 172.75 FTEs. The public safety area specifically accounts for almost half the number of new positions, 84.5 FTEs. Budgeted. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, hey, look at that. We were good. Public safety spending, yeah. All right, looking at our public safety appropriations. Within this area, you'll find, as always, the Sheriff's Office, our Department of Public Safety, the District Attorney's Office, and the Public Defender's Office. Every year, you'll see a big difference between what you adopt in December and what we later on show as the amended budget. Each of these departments typically bring forward a number of legislative referrals throughout the year to accept various grants and amend their operating budgets. The largest of those referrals has been to accept additional state funding for the Public Defender's Office and the Conflict Defender's Office. And those really were related to the state settlement of the Harrell Herring lawsuit. And of course, they have 3-year funding each year from the Office of Indigent Legal Services. Our Office for the Sheriff has a budget proposed to increase by $20.5 million. It's about 11.6% increase. Payroll and benefits increase 17.7 million of that. It adds 45.5 FTEs. All but one of those new positions were already added earlier this year. A few comments about their individual divisions. Sheriff's Administration, it's primarily a maintenance of effort budget. It increases $720,000. Payroll and benefits account for the bulk of that increase, higher by $528,000. And this division adds 2.5 FTEs. Our Sheriff's Office Civil Bureau, again, it's pretty much a maintenance of effort budget. It does increase $333,000. Again, payroll and benefits account for the bulk of that increase, higher by $274,000, and they add just 1/2 of an FTE. The Police Bureau budget increases $6.1 million. Payroll and benefits account for $5.2 million of that increase, and they add 56 FTEs. Again, many of those FTEs were added earlier in 23. Building rent and equipment for the REOC adds another $675,000. And you'll probably notice in the detail appropriations pages, clothing allowances are now budgeted at $117,000. Within the Sheriff's Jail Bureau, again, primarily a maintenance of effort budget. It does increase $9.7 million. Payroll and benefits account for 9 million of that, 14% increase. But it does shift 3.5 FTEs to other bureaus. I'll note jail medical and commissary contracts increase a combined $600,000. And again, you'll probably see in the detail appropriation pages, clothing allowance now budgeted at $169,000. And then looking at our Court Security Bureau, again, primarily a maintenance of effort budget. It does increase $2.5 million. And again, payroll and benefits account for virtually all the increase, coming in higher at 2.4 million. And it does shift 4.5 FTEs to other bureaus. Last but certainly not least, the Staff Services Bureau, their budget increases a lower amount, 1.2 million. Payroll and benefits increase only $241,000 of that because they're shifting 5.5 FTEs to other bureaus. Other increases within staff services include computer maintenance, that's $309,000. New tablets and monitor purchases, $115,000. And a higher chargeback from County Information Services, which is about $114,000 higher. It also reflects the higher cost for vehicle parts. You'll see that's up about $89,000. Our Department of Public Safety is seeing a budget increase of $15.5 million. That's pretty big. It's 18.7%. Payroll and benefits account for 3.4 million of that increase after adding 19 FTEs. And like other departments, we did apply, when it's all said and done, a general 5% vacancy factor to their positions. Other changes I'll highlight: of Public Safety's 19 new positions, 10 of them were added to the Conflict Defender's Office and the Assigned Counsel program. Those additions are all part of that 5-year state funding increase related to the Harold Herring lawsuit settlement and their regular operating plan with State Office of Indigent Legal Services. Also significant, the cost of the Assigned Counsel program is more than doubling. It went from $4 million to $8.5 million. And that really is due to state mandated increases for attorney's fees. Assigned counsel rates used to be $60 an hour for misdemeanor cases, $75 for all others. Going forward, all cases will come with a $158 per hour rate. Within public safety communications, $4.5 million has been budgeted for equipment. This is a little unusual. This is a one-time addition to public safety's budget, but it relates to state interoperable communications grants that the legislature accepted in prior years. Those grant dollars at the time were originally intended to reimburse several different capital projects related to our communications infrastructure, but those capital projects were scaled back. Since that grant funding was originally intended for capital projects and now intended to be using for operating equipment, we're going to put that in the operating budget. Our Office of the District Attorney, we're proposing a budgetary increase of $2 million. It's about 10.2%. Again, payroll and benefits accounts for almost all of that increase at 1.8 million and does reflect 8 FTEs that were added earlier this year. Higher chargebacks from County IS also account for an increase. It's about $163,000. Pat Benatar, right? Office. I love the 80s. My last slide, quite all right. Office of the Public Defender, last but certainly not least. Their proposed budget increase for 24, it's about a $1.3 million increase. It's about 13.9% of their operating budget. Once again, payroll and benefits account for the bulk of that increase at 1.1 million. It does reflect the addition of 12 FTEs that are funded by New York State, either through Office of Indigent Legal Services or that Harold Herring lawsuit settlement. And really, the remaining increase in their budget is due to higher chargebacks, mostly from county information services. Mr. Chairman, that's it. That's the fun begin.
Very different differences of opinion and fun, but we do belong together. With that, I will now open up the floor to any committee members who have questions regarding the public safety portion of the budget. Legislator Milne, the floor is yours.
Well, like my fellow legislators in other committees, I would like to thank very much Mr. Franklin for your efforts and your team's efforts to put this. This is a daunting task. I know you do it every year, but it's a huge budget and it's a lot of work. So I thank you for that. I also want to thank all of our public safety departments. I feel very blessed to live in Monroe County and represent people in Monroe County with people that we have serving us in public safety. And that goes not just to the sheriff's department and the jail, but our emergency preparedness departments, 911 center, Monroe County Airport firefighters. And we also have an incredible DA's office and public defender's office. And we're again blessed that we have the incredible teams that we have working. On to the questions. Through the chair to the administration, question you've been asked a couple of times tonight. Can you provide the legislature with a breakdown for all positions that fall under this portion of the 2024 budget that are authorized, funded, and vacant? This breakdown should include each title and corresponding budgeted amounts for salary, retirement, social security, etc. Heard your answer a couple of times, being in the back of the book. Franklin?
Correct. You will find all the authorized positions for each of these departments in the back of the budget book, along with corresponding pay schedules, so you can make an association of about what each position should be paid. We generally do not provide, historically, legislature with details of individuals and their individual pay with individual medical, dental, plans that they select. With that history, we're going to keep with that history.
General fund mandate questions. Through the chair, what percentage of the department's budget is mandated versus non-mandated?
Just, Mr. Chairman, can I clarify which department?
Thank you very much. Sticking strictly with public safety with the sheriffs. Public safety. Pardon me?
Public safety.
Yeah, public safety department. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry, public safety department.
Believe it or not, I forgot your question.
No, I would understand that. What percentage of the department's budget is mandated versus non-mandated?
Mr. Chairman, I do not bring that kind of detail to these meetings. I've, for the past several years, not really bothered with it anymore. We do have that, and we can query the budget system and provide that prior to the Ways and Means Committee.
Thank you. Through the chair, how much, if any, general fund balance is being applied to the public safety department budget? And if general fund balance is being applied, what is the breakdown of restricted versus unrestricted applied fund balance?
There is some general fund balance being applied to the Department of Public Safety. It is restricted grant dollars from their Stop DWI funding. You will find that specifically labeled in our annual comprehensive financial report, and we're using $150,000 of that restricted fund balance. That is the only general fund balance being used in the department. There is some debt service fund, specifically our reserve for bonded debt, but that's a much $48 nominal amount.
Thank you. Again, still staying on along with the public safety department. Through the chair, what is the breakdown of the public safety budget as it relates to appropriations charged to the general fund, debt service fund, and capital projects fund?
Actually, Chairman, this question was asked before, so let me clarify. No department's operating budget charges a capital fund. Usually it goes the other direction. You'll see on page 299, the second line is provision capital projects, but that's money in the operating budget that, if approved, will be transferred to a capital fund. The rest of this question, Department of Public Safety is primarily funded by the general fund. The only budget lines you'll see in another fund is debt service, and that is all charged and accounted for in the debt service fund. And those are the only.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration, again, still with public safety, you have any capital projects included in the 2024 to 2028 capital improvement plan been delayed, downsized, or canceled? And if so, can you please provide this committee with a list of those affected projects and revised budgets and or project timelines?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we will provide that very specific information in our annual capital budget report for calendar year 2023, and we provide that to the full legislature prior to March 31st.
Next questions, next 7 questions or so will fall along the lines of page 298 under major objectives. Through the chair on page 298, 2023 major accomplishments. One of the major accomplishments was the Diversity Action Plan finalized and approved by the Office of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion as listed in the previous 2023 major objective. So was that plan finalized?
For the chair, that plan was sent to Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. It was approved, adopted, and has been revised on one occasion as well.
And through the chair, again, same page, under major accomplishments, how was the Stop DWI and Traffic Safety Unit able to maximize engagements for the biggest impact? What were the changes made in order to do so? And were those able to be accomplished?
Through the chair, through the leadership of the Stop DWI Impaired Driving Enforcement Program and our team there, they were modifying a number of their objectives based upon what we're hearing from our law enforcement partners and how we could maximize our efforts. And you see that with our high visibility enforcement details, additional training, and the opportunity for us to expand not only the Stop DWI program, but also the traffic safety program. And this last year, we were able to produce 5 public service announcements that had never been done before within our unit.
And continuing on with the same types of questions, through the chair on page, again, still on 298. Did the Office of Traffic Safety and Traffic Safety Board increase efforts on pedestrian safety education throughout the county and city of Rochester as listed as an objective?
Through the chair, the Monroe County Traffic Safety Board did partner with us in regards to the pedestrian safety, motorcycle safety, and other related topics concerning, traffic safety in Monroe County.
And through the chair to the administration, still under major accomplishments, why wasn't the centralized badging office created and implemented in the Division of Safety and Security by the Division of Safety and Security as listed under major objectives?
Through the chair, as we started to review that project further, we realized that we had to make some technology enhancements, infrastructure changes, and it was going to require additional time. Our philosophy was, let's do it right instead of fast, and that's something that we hope to accomplish, or we will accomplish in 2024.
Excellent, thank you. Through the chair, major accomplishments was the Fire Bureau able to update key documents directly related to the fire service, such as the arson control plan, mutual aid plan, and communications plans, again, as listed under major objectives.
Through the chair, yes, all of those plans have been updated by the Monroe County Fire Bureau. They're either through their review process with constituent agencies and will be formally adopted as we presented the plan last year.
Thank you. Was the conflict, this is Conflict Defenders Office question. Was the Conflict Defenders Office and Assigned Counsel Program able to make a transition to two separate offices and create new necessary procedures due to the split as listed under major objectives?
Mark Funk, assigned council administrator through the chair. Yes, the Conflict Defenders Office and assigned council program are now two separate offices. The last piece of the puzzle to completely split the office is a new case management system that will be installed later this week for the Conflict Defenders Office. We have changed policies and procedures to reflect the split and are refining those as we go.
As follow-up to that, and thank you very much, the new case management system that's going to be set up, is that it, for lack of a better term, is that kind of a plug-and-play system that should be up and running quickly, or is that going to take some time?
It will, it is a up and running as soon as it's installed. The procedure is that our current case management system gets, for lack of a better term, copied and transitioned to the new case management system. And that will be done as it gets installed later this week and into next week.
Thank you, Mr. Funk. Next question, again, is along on the same page, but this goes to Weights and Measures. Was Weights and Measures able to develop a public relations and educational platform through their website and outreach program, again, as listed under major objectives?
Through the chair, the Weights and Measures Division has become extremely robust in their consumer protection aspect. They continue to work with information services in regards to, pardon me, website design, and something that will continue to evolve into 2024. And certainly with hopefully the approval of this budget, be able to do more with that, especially with electric vehicles and those charging stations that need to be monitored.
Thank you. This is something that's come up in some discussions over the last couple months, I believe, but is the county executive security detail included in this year's budget? What is the cost and where in the budget can it be located, including its fund center?
Mr. Chairman, Department of Public Safety is reimbursing the sheriff's office for associated costs of that. Review the cost center, Mr. Chairman, and provide an appropriate response prior to Ways and Means.
I certainly respect that. Thank you. The next couple of questions move to page 450. Under appropriations, Public Safety Director's Office salaries are increasing 229, 328 in 2023 to 836, 253 in 2024. And I think Mr. Franklin addressed some of this in his presentation, but what is the reason for this increase?
So I'm actually kind of excited about this concept. The director's office fund center is actually adding 6 FTEs, really creating a new business services unit. I'm not sure if it's finalized, but they have in this budget proposal positions for their financial administrator to oversee the business services unit, which will also include fiscal coordinator, grants, development analyst, information specialist, a senior personnel tech, and a clerk one. It is a almost $90 million department now. 98.474 million. If this were a separate company, it probably would have its own financial structure. So this is probably a welcome addition, especially for a department as diverse as public safety is, when you have not just one focus, but there's law enforcement, there's the fire service, the emergency medical service, security, very disparate and very unique. So a business service unit to try to aggregate the purchasing, accounting, budgetary, and personnel needs in a coordinated fashion is probably long overdue.
Thank you. My last 5 questions are really going to be around salaries and et cetera. Still on page 450. Under Public Safety Director's Office, total benefits is increasing from 141,406 in 2023 to 373,542 in 2024. Reason for that increase?
All, Mr. Chairman, related to the additional 6 FTEs and mathematically driven by contractually obligated pay and step increases that drive pension and FICA contributions.
Thank you. The next 2 are located on 452 still under appropriations, public safety. Legal representation salaries is increasing 839,312 in 2023 to 346,256 in 2024. And retention is increasing from 20,540 in 23 to 175 175K in 2024. Again, reasons?
Mr. Chairman, part of the reason the retention is increasing is you approved it last year, but it also increases because legal representation, as I might have mentioned in my presentation, added 10 FTEs really related to Harold Herring lawsuits and their plans with indigent legal services. I will remind the committee, the Conflict Defender's Office and Assigned Counsel is heavily grant funded, New York State funded. They will be, as every year, they tend to come forward to the legislature in the spring or early summer with a referral to accept quite a bit of funding. Harold Herring is kind of plateaued now, but should remain constant. But you'll still see referrals for that and the about $1.8 million for Fund Center.
Thank you. Remaining on page 452 under appropriations through the chair to the administration. Public safety, legal representation, professional services is increasing 4 million in 2023 to 8.5 in 2024.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I kind of mentioned that in my presentation. That is the mandated increase in assigned counsel rates.
Thank you. Page 453, public safety, legal representation, retirement is increasing 123,282 in 23 to 205,483 in 24. And IS medical insurance is increasing 84,677 in 23 to 159,632 in 24.
Mr. Chairman, the retirement contributions increase all across the county, a little more with legal representation simply because they've added 10 FTEs to this budget. Even though we are still within the alternate stable contribution program and have stated contribution rates for the next several years, our stabilization rates are lower than the normal or regular employer contribution rates. Therefore, we have to make a graded payment. It's our contribution plus a little extra. So you're going to see retirement going up all across the county. compared to prior years. Medical insurance, we're looking at a 12% rate increase countywide on our medical benefits. Depends on the specific plans employees choose. But that overall 12% increase was factored into each type of plan's equivalent, and now it's all mathematically driven by the number of staff in each division, each fund center, and the specific type of plan that they choose to participate in.
Thank you, sir. And my final question, for now, still on 454. Probation, salaries are increasing 11,544,525 and 23 to 11,762, 637 and 24. And again, and retention is increasing 273, 220 to 522. I'm sure we approve that. But the salary is increasing?
The addition of 2.15 FTEs within probation. And really, it's that and our contractually obligated pay and step increases.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. I appreciate all your answers.
Legislator Colby, you have the floor.
Thank you. On page 455, the first line item is retirement. It was, it went up almost double in the amended budget, and then you reduced it back down. Can you explain what's going on in that line item?
Within this line item, Mr. Chairman, it's influenced by the grants that are accepted throughout the year. The 23 amended budget had $483,000 in grants added to it. So likely that you'll see increases in the spring and summer as referrals are brought.
So that line item will increase.
It will, Mr. Chair.
Farther down the page, information services. There's a increase this year of about $200,000.
Big increase, Mr. Chairman, in a lot of our departments due to the increase in appropriations for County Information Services Department that are spread throughout the user departments.
Moving down that page, the second from last one, public service, security is one number, actual 95,000, and that goes up to 211, then back down. Is that the same thing with the grants being accepted?
Probably not, Mr. Chairman. This really is probably more reflective of the Department of Public Safety now appropriating funds to manage the entire contract we have with Securitas rather than managing most of it and then some departments contracting for their own portion. So now they track all expenses from Securitas, and then they have a formula by which they apportion that cost to the actual use.
Thank you. On page 458, maintenance of computer equipment has made a major change in amended budget of 2023. Now it's decreasing a little bit.
Sorry, page 458, Mr. Chairman.
Page 458, line item 504285, maintenance of computer equipment.
Couple, Mr. Chairman, couple items within that particular line. And you do see some variation from year to year. This really is mostly related to their digital trunking system, P25 digital trunking system. Also relates to their paging system. Paging system is, depending on the year, often in need of love and care.
They still use pagers?
Believe it or not.
I thought only drug or, anyways. Moving on to page 460. Maintenance of computers are there again with an increase. I assume maybe the same answer. It's 504285.
These dollars are a little higher. This is 911 emergency communications. So really this is mostly related to our CAD system. It's about $675,000. But also buried in there is, they have an audio recorder system now. It costs another $55,000 annually. Plus their Mindtel phone system. They also have a GIS integration with the CAD system, but that has to be maintained at $20,000. I think this legislature was made aware of a EMS triage system that it's almost a bolt-on to the CAD system, a little cheaper, 19 grand. But then there's some smaller systems that add and round out to the 843,000.
Thank you. On the line item right below that, under professional services computer, it looks like it's almost doubling from amended budget.
Yes, Mr. Chair, the CAD system is not plug and play. So we still have to pay for configuration and assistance with managing that program. There was an upgrade, and that cost us about $221,000. And then that system, the CAD system interfaces with a number of other systems, GIS, records management, EMS triage. So all those system interfaces cost another $165,000.
We didn't have those expenses last year.
A lot of these are new. As the technology improves, its ability to talk to other systems improves. And so now we have those, I call them software bridges, but they're integrations.
Okay. And right down the line there, agency contracts, looks like there's a small increase in that line.
That is entirely, Mr. Chairman, our contract with the city of Rochester as they run the 911 emergency center.
Moving farther down, principal of bonds. Looks like that's up a little bit, up quite a bit from 2022.
Bonds is how I make my money, Mr. Chairman. This is entirely related to the debt incurred by the department.
Moving on down, information services line, it's 961,991. It's increased about 300,000.
Huge increase, Mr. Chairman, but that really relates to the complexity. You know, it's not the 1945 radio system and phone system anymore. These are complex computers that actually taken over the phone system. So IS helps the Public Safety Department, specifically 911 Emergency Communications, manage that system. And this is also reflective of their incredible increase in appropriations for the proposal.
And moving on to page 461, commercial services, 504205. It's increased about 100,000.
That's not so bad,
No,
Mr. Chairman, but that is entirely related to the Securitas contract that Public Safety will completely manage now.
so that's all about that reorganization of the public service with all the departments then. Is that what you're saying?
Mr. Chairman, it's my contention that a security contract with certified security guards should be managed by people who are abreast of what security is all about.
Moving on to page 462. I'm going to skip the first one there, but rental of space, there's a $300,000 increase, about 10%.
Yeah, we had to renew our lease, Mr. Chairman, for the appellate division over on East Avenue. That's that lease.
Near the bottom of that page, IS Hall of Justice. I'm not even sure what that line item does. Is there an increase in that one?
That line item, that is a building account for the Hall of Justice, and it accumulates all the expenses of having a building. And those expenses are charged back to the user departments, and Public Safety's unified court system is in charge of that building, and they bear a lot of that cost.
Okay. 463, looks like there's a new line item, software licensing.
Yes, it is a new line item, Mr. Chairman. This is for their NetMotion software. We created software license account last year to get prepared for, I believe it's GASB 97, which we have to account and report our subscription-based IT software as if, I'm simplifying, but as if it were a capital lease. This was our feeble attempt to start aggregating all those costs. It's a feeble attempt because you'll find software licenses here. You'll find them in computer maintenance. You'll find them in computer equipment. It's just a slow transition, but we'll get there.
On the bottom of that same page, 463, the administration and labor line item is increased 3.5 times.
All the chargebacks, Mr. Chairman, for Pure Water's admin and labor are tied to our work order system. This one in particular is heavy because it includes our chargeback to Central Police Services for GIS services and in support of the 911 CAD system, which, by the way, ArcGIS is going away. We're now facing Esri GIS. So a number of departments that use GIS services, you'll see an increase.
On page 466, under salaries, there seems to be a decrease. I wonder why that is, especially with all the other salary costs going up.
That is entirely related to the fact that the amended budget for 23 had $168,000 in grants. No doubt, emergency management receives a number of grants, so you'll probably see 3 of them at least.
Farther down that line, on that page, professional services, looks like there's a new line item, 200,000.
It is new, Mr. Chairman. This is really formally accounted for in a capital fund. This represents what public safety is calling their 3rd phase of their infrastructure assessment project. As I said, it was in the CIP in consultation with public safety management. They agreed to my request to get that out of the CIP and into their operating budget.
A couple lines down, there's other expenses, and it seems like that's a big jump.
Huge, and I was hoping you weren't going to ask about that. The Office of Emergency Management, it's OEM, and they have a radiological unit. Emergency management as a whole is heavily grant funded. And it's not like a grant that you apply for and you submit your desired expenses to the grantor. It's really an allocation, not really a grant. It's an allocation that comes from the state and federal governments, federal through the state. And OEM has quite wide flexibility in how those allocated dollars are to be spent. So we're using this kind of as a placeholder while they firm up their 24. We'll move it at the appropriate time.
Okay. And on page 468, the salaries in the crime lab has increased significantly. Is that because of the addition of positions over the last year?
There is differences in the grants. The 23 amended budget had a slightly lower amount of grants reimbursing our salaries. In the 24 budget, it's actually a higher amount, so that's usually opposite of what you see in this budget book.
Yeah.
But that swing really is entirely attributable to the shift in grant reimbursement. It's strictly any pay increase is strictly contractual pay and step increases.
Thank you.
Legislator Morris, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the administration. Page 470, under appropriations, weights and measures salaries. That line's increasing. 269,560 in 2023 to 379,798 in 2024. Explain that.
Absolutely. I don't think I touched upon this, but we are adding staff to Weights and Measures. Chief Tantello did comment on the electric vehicle charging stations that are being deployed and have been deployed by other companies around town. We need to start inspecting those. Other than that, it's the pay and step increases required by contract.
Thank you. And again, through you, Mr. Chairman, again, on 470, equipment increasing 6,000 to 45,000. Is that related to those? Or is that something else?
It's not related to the EV charging stations, but it is fuel related. It's really to purchase a new 100 gallon prover for petroleum. 61 is, I'm told, over 60 years old.
Yeah, that's old. That's like- Thank you. Again, through you, Mr. Chairman, revenue questions, on page 631, legal representation, state aid increases, is this new? It's 0 in 2023, 562,500 in 2024?
So according to the state, they are going to provide some reimbursement for the higher assigned council attorney fees, but only through March 31st of 2024. So this is our educated guess of what that reimbursement may look like.
And again, through you, Mr. Chairman, page 632, probation state aid increases from 4,383,904 in 2023 to 4,863,995 in 2024.
So you must be looking at adopted numbers for 23. The amended budget is actually quite higher. Probation does receive quite a bit of grant money, particularly raise the age grant money. And because the state has been so late in approving raise the age plans, we actually saw higher appropriations in our 23 budget. So if you look at amended budget to proposed, it's a big drop, but that's entirely attributable to raise the age.
Again, through you, Mr. Chairman, page 632, probation charges to other departments. Again, increase 1.2 plus million to 1.3 plus million. Is this following along the same understanding of other departments with these types of increases?
So probation actually, Mr. Chairman, has some contracts with our Department of Human Services, specifically to alternatives to detention. And FACT, that's the Family Access Connection Team, I think that acronym is. So this is what the collaboration, this is what the Human Services Department pays probation to participate in those two programs.
And page 633 through you, Mr. Chairman, stop DWI traffic fines increases from $225,049 in 2023 to $351,951 in 2024.
So this particular line is an educated guess, Mr. Chairman, and it relates to our victim impact panel fees that are charged to defendants on the panel.
Through you again, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, page 634, public safety communication state aid increases from 48,410 in 2023 to 4.5 million plus in 2024.
Yep. Mr. Chairman, what you see in the amended budget for 23, it's a lower amount. It's our regular process for accepting state interoperable communication grants. 2024, I believe I mentioned in our presentation, we did accept grants in prior years, but they were intended to reimburse our capital funds, not an operating expense, and those plans have now since changed. So we'd like that grant money in our operating budget. So that's the change there.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, page 637, unified court system. SA Court Facilities increases from 3.872 plus million in 2023 to 4.243 plus million in 2024.
Mr. Chairman, as we incur additional costs with the new lease for the appellate court, New York State reimburses us for those costs.
And again, through you, Mr. Chairman, page 638, Mutual Aid Fire Bureau charges to other governments increases from 2.985995 million in 2023 to $3,120,707 in 2024.
That, Mr. Chairman, is based on the Fire Bureau's proposed budget for 2024, which is a below-the-line charge on our tax bill.
On page 640, through you again, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, crime laboratory charges to other governments. Shows an increase of $207,234 in 2023 to $311,447 in 2024.
Those are estimates, Mr. Chairman, but mathematically derived. We have intermunicipal agreements with Genesee and Livingston counties. We are a regional crime lab. We only have 2 contracts. If another county wants to utilize our services, there's a service arrangement that they can reimburse.
Now I have a series of, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration of questions, personnel-related questions. What was the reasoning behind removing the listed titles, Alternatives to Incarceration Program Supervisor, Group 16, Emergency Management Planning Tech Group 15, the Data Manager, Group 12, the 2 Project Monitors, Group 11, and the Account Clerk, Group 5? Okay.
Through the chair, specific to your questions regarding the changes to the emergency management titles, there were several. One, we upgraded one title from a 17 to a 19. Also moved one person up, so we had 2 positions in 17. We have 1 new created in 19. They gave us the 15 that was open. So that's why you see that net position, and there were some other decisions around project monitor positions that were in previous year's budgets that we wanted to move up from a skill set point of view based on our experience post-COVID as our projects get more complicated, and we're looking to fund a project manager position versus a project monitor position. I think I captured that question.
Thank you. Yes. Again, through you, Mr. Chairman, again, along the lines of personnel related, what was the reasoning behind adding the following listed titles? An Assistant Director of Public Safety, Group 21, a Senior Caseworker, Group 57, an Accreditation and Compliance Coordinator, Group 16, Information Specialist, Public Safety, Group 15, Fire Training Coordinator, Group 14, Grants Development Analyst, Group 14, Senior Data Manager, Group 14, Senior Personnel Tech, Group 14, Caseworker for the Help Program, Group 55, and Management Assistant, Group 12, and School Bus Video Specialist, Part-Time, Group 10.
Through the chair, I'll address 3 of those now. It was a rather lengthy list. So the Assistant Director of Public Safety was created in regards to reorganizing the Monroe County Probation Department. We eliminated a deputy chief's position and created the assistant director's position, a senior level position to help us navigate the future of the probation department and how it can respond to the community needs. The bus patrol or bus video monitor positions that you see there are part-time. They're part of the bus patrol, if you will, program, which is, pardon me, has video cameras monitored on the buses that are deployed for school children. School districts opt into the program at no cost to them, at no cost to the county, and it'll capture a violation of the bus reds, if you will, when they're either dropping off or picking up school-aged children. So those individuals are part-time staff. That program has recently rolled out. 6 school districts involved. We anticipate they have more. And we're currently in our warning period. There's a 30-day warning period anytime that we go into a new school district community for that. And I'm sorry, sir, I forgot the third one I was going to mention.
Thank you, Sean.
Probation.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. There was
know.
an accreditation and compliance.
Oh, there you go,
coordinator.
accreditation one. Okay, thanks very much. I apologize for that. So when we also looked at the reorganization piece of the probation department and how we can further advance what we do, we looked at the accreditation model in law enforcement and how that really has set standards in organizations throughout the United States. It's nationally accredited. Every law enforcement agency in the county of Monroe is accredited. And we looked at what we can do in probation to help assist with our level of services, policy development, and things of that nature. So creating an accreditation monitor, manager, or compliance officer. So every law enforcement agency in the county of Monroe has an accreditation manager. We don't want it just to have that position, but law enforcement will tell you how valuable that is and what that means for an organization to have those standards in place. Accreditation does not exist within probation. I'll be very honest, I'm biased about that, and I feel as though that it should. We've had the discussions with the state of New York. So having that position in place would help us greatly because keeping standards up ensures that our personnel keep their standards up.
Again, through you, Mr. Chairman, what was the purpose of adding a third assistant probation director and then retiring the position as assistant probation director, Group D?
Through the chair. So once again, with the reorganization piece, what we looked at was how can we best utilize our talents and resources in the organization, and creating a third assistant chief of probation and creating a special operations unit was tied to the JEDS program and operationalizing our personnel so that we have more resources available for intensive supervision on, in particular, young people. We obviously were seeing what was occurring in this community and how devastating that was and how we needed to manage that differently. And in order to move forward and really evolve into what the community safety plan is, creating that third assistant chief of probation to supervise our special operations unit was what we felt was needed. And very honestly, even though it's only a couple of months old, we're already seeing the benefits of that reorganization piece.
And again, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, it looks like there's an increase in a number of positions with the following titles, and I'll just ask, for the reason behind that. Special Assistant Conflict Defender, Training Mentorship Program Coordinator, Emergency Management Program Specialist, Senior Probation Officer, Fiscal Coordinator, a Project Manager, Clerk 1, Special Urban Investigative Assistant, Probation Assistant, Cashier Grade 2. It looks like there's a one additional position being funded, if I'm reading that right, in the budget.
Let me handle it this way if I can without going, if it's okay, through the chair. Right, so with the fiscal piece and anything associated with the fiscal piece was really crafting that business center for the Department of Public Safety. And Mr. Franklin, indicated that he supported that. We value obviously his experience and talent in fiscal related issues, and that's a much needed set for that. So working with our new finance administrator and helping us handle all of the grant funding opportunities, the purchase orders and all the things associated with that. As far as a senior probation officer, that was one of the recommendations associated with reorganizing our sex offender unit a couple of years ago when we were required to do that. So having a second sex offender, a senior probation officer is instrumental to making sure that we continue to adequately supervise a group of individuals that need intense supervision. As far as the conflict defender's office, I'll pass that over if you don't mind.
Through the chair, I will attempt to address two of the positions I think that you mentioned related to the conflict defender's office. The first is the senior caseworker position, which I think you mentioned in your first question. The reason we've created that position is because in the fall of 2022, we received a 3-year, $500,000 grant from Indigent Legal Services from the state to fund a family court bureau that's related to providing holistic representation to parents who are accused of abuse and neglect of their children. With that, it created a caseworker position. We hired and filled that position and made it a caseworker position. In the meantime, the public defender's office, who received the same grant from the state, but in a greater proportion, was able to hire 4 caseworkers to assist their attorneys in their family court work. Those positions that were created were senior caseworker positions. So the conflict defender office had 1 caseworker providing assistance at some could say a greater proportion because they were solely working for the office, while the public defender's office had 4 caseworkers who were on the senior caseworker level doing the same work. So that's one reason that senior caseworker position needs to be created. The other is that we've also asked for an additional caseworker to be positioned to be created for the office. And our current caseworker who would be moved into that senior caseworker role would be providing an extensive amount of training and sharing, the knowledge that she's gained over the last 1.5 years with our office and assistance in hiring that person. She's really taken a role of creating this position. And so she would be compensated for those extra duties as well. The second would be for a third special assistant conflict defender. Creation of that position is necessary and long overdue because we are an office of 3 separate bureaus. We have a criminal defense or a city court bureau. We have a family court bureau, and we have an appeals bureau. We currently only have 2 special assistant conflict defender positions. We really need one to head up each of those bureaus so that they can provide the mentorship and training for the lower level attorneys in their bureaus while also handling a full caseload. And so it's an extremely work heavy position. It's something that someone is actually already doing right now while not being compensated for that. And it's, it's a great asset for the office to be able to have that additional, position, and it provides a lot of assistance to the conflict defender as well.
Thank you. Again, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, what was the reason behind increasing the amount of positions by 2 each for the titles probation supervisor, probation officer bilingual, inspector of weights and measures, and legal secretary 2?
We increased the bilingual position because we were seeing a number of increases in our Spanish-speaking clients, and we wanted to provide them service without having to go through a third-party interpreting service. So that was for the bilingual, and forgive me, I forgot the other position.
Probation supervisor?
Oh, the probation supervisor position was because of our, as the director has already stated, the development of our new special operations division, to stay in compliance with our DCJS, standard of probation officers supervised by a probation supervisor. We needed to increase staffing.
I'll just add a little commentary about that with the bilingual officer, because we are in a downtown urban location at City Place. A number of individuals come into our facility. And even though they may not be clients of probation, having the ability to have an interpreter on site has been exceptional. In response to the weights and measures inspector, I'm sorry, I forgot to say she already did that though. I'm just tagging on to her. The weights and measures inspector increase. So we had talked about that. We anticipate that there's going to be about 800 EV stations in the county of Monroe. And we're waiting to continue to collaborate with the state of New York on regulations and how that's done. But we want to get ahead of the game because we know that they're growing at an exceptional rate. So having those personnel on staff and getting them trained to be able to do this, so that we're able to make sure that our residents are, if you will, appropriately paying the right fees and not being overcharged, and putting that into that consumer protection, if you will, arena.
And again, through you, Mr. Chairman, the reasoning behind decreasing the amount of positions for the following titles: Emergency Management Program Tech, Office Clerk 2, Office Clerk 3, and Receptionist, by one position. It looks like each were being reduced.
I'll speak to the Emergency Management Program Tech. So if you look at the grade, that grade was up from a 17 to a 19. So in last year's budget, we had two program techs at 17. So we moved that position up because that's really going to be a customer facing out to the community kind of model that we really need to develop based on our benchmarking with other similar sized emergency management operation. And if you look at the two 17s that are currently in the budget, our total head count remains the same, but we end up with two 17s at the emergency management program specialist level and the one new 19. So total head count stays the same. There was an upgrade to a 19.
Through the chair, similarly, our headcount is staying the same in regards to the reduction of the clerk 2, which is a position we found very difficult to fill. But what we did is we then used that position to increase our cashier position. The Monroe County Office of Probation takes in thousands of dollars in fines, fees, and surcharges and restitution every day. And we realized that we needed an additional cashier to make that run smoothly. So we transferred that position.
Through the chair, to answer parts of like the past three questions, with regard to the assigned counsel program, we have created a training and mentorship coordinator position to implement a mentor program to have pair up experienced attorneys with less experienced attorneys, so we can get the less experienced attorneys, obviously more experienced, to move them up to more serious cases. Also, you asked about legal secretary and the special urban investigative assistant position, which is the county's title for a paralegal. Those positions and the decrease in the clerk 2s are due to initiatives as the assigned counsel program intends to implement that more specialized knowledge, such as a paralegal or a legal secretary is needed as opposed to a clerk too.
Following up, through you, Mr. Chairman, what was the reasoning behind decreasing the amount of positions for probation officer, group 15 title by 3, dropping the amount of positions down from 98 to 95 positions?
Through the chair, the one position, one of the probation officer positions was converted to that bilingual position. So they come from 2 separate lists. So they're a separate position. And the other position was to make the supervisor position. So we combined the 2 probation officers to make the supervisor.
Then, through you, Mr. Chairman, why was the group increase for the assigned council administrator from 21 to 23 in the 2024 budget?
Mr. Chairman, that particular position was a request of public safety, and it was reviewed by human resources, civil service staff, who reviewed the job specs and the job duties and its relevance and weight of responsibility in comparison to the public defender's office and the public defender's office and the conflict defender's office, district attorney's office, and they concluded after their review that the upgrade was appropriate for that position.
And then, but very well, similar answer, it may be the same with the civil service review. Why was the group increased for emergency management program tech from a 17 to a 19? Did that receive a similar review with the findings, or is this explained a different way?
Mr. Chairman, all requested personnel changes from public safety are reviewed by human resources, civil service staff. Many are approved, many are denied. This particular one was approved. Most of the position changes are due to operational needs. I love the way Chief Tantella talked about it. We're responding to community needs. Times have changed, and this county needs to change with it. And I think the requested changes that public safety have made were not made lightly, but with appropriate thought of what the needs are in our community and their best response.
Agree. Thank you. I yield the floor.
Thank you, Legislator Delahanty. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to redirect to the Monroe County Sheriff's Department. However, I think Mr. Franklin may be answering and might have even maybe heard some similar questions before. So I'll kick it right off.
We're happy to tag team up here.
So, through the chair, can you provide the legislature with a breakdown of all positions that fall under this portion of the 2024 budget that are authorized, funded, and
I think-
vacant?
I think
It's
he's,
been
I
asked
think
and
he's
answered,
asked
Mr.
and answered
Chairman.
that one before. We could skip to the next one.
All right. Thank you. Next question, through the chair. What percentage of the department's budget is mandated versus non-mandated?
That has been asked and answered, Mr. Chairman.
Next question, through the, I'm sorry, that hasn't been answered for the sheriff's office yet, though, has
It's been
it?
asked and answered in every committee, and it's the same response. I do not bring, I no longer bring mandated versus non-mandated data to these committee meetings. I generally don't look at it. The only time I look at it is when the request is made at these budget hearings. The mandates are real. There is no doubt about it. 80% of our county budget is mandated, and there's no getting around that. They are real, and they are a drain on local resident property taxes. At the same time, Mr. Chairman, I have reviewed at least 25 years of budget books. They all beat and moan about the cost of mandates, and NISAC has published numerous articles on the cost of mandates that are shoved down to localities. And while they are real, 25 years of spending that kind of political capital and nothing changes, I'm not going to spend any more political capital on fighting New York State when life is not fair. So we're just going to deal with it. But I will get you that information, and it will not be used.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And through the chair, how much, if any, general fund balance is being applied to the sheriff's department budget? And if the general fund balance is being applied, what is the breakdown of restricted versus unrestricted applied fund balance?
The sheriff's office does use $1.7 million of general fund assigned fund balance. This was fund balance assigned, I think on the 22 financial statements, it was $8.5 million for 5 years of anti-violence initiatives. And mathematically, that was $1.7 million a year for 5 years. So the sheriff's office is consuming $1.7 million of that general fund assigned fund balance.
Okay, and through the chair, what is the breakdown of the sheriff's budget as it relates to appropriations charged to the general fund, the debt services fund, and the capital projects fund?
Almost all of the appropriations are charged to the general fund. Only a small piece, and that represents debt service within the sheriff's office, is charged to the debt service fund.
Thank you. And through the chair, now opening up to page 365. And this, through the chair, while listed as an objective last year, implement anti-violence community outreach program, partnering with social workers to visit high-risk homes where an arrest is made, is not listed as an accomplishment this year. Why?
Through the chair, we did attempt that program at the beginning of the year, and to be honest, we didn't have success at it. We couldn't get buy-in from the community, so the houses that we went to, it just wasn't an effective program. So we did not stick with doing that.
Okay. And the same goes for reopen the Maloney Star Academy with increased services and opportunities, as it is not listed as an accomplishment. Why?
Through the chair, so we did not reopen the Maloney Star Academy inside the jail. Partially due to the number of sentence inmates that we have in the jail, and partially due to the number of deputies that we are currently at. But we have implemented many other programs in the jail.
Okay. And the same for, through the chair, the same for Court Security Bureau, graduate 25 deputies from the academy and assigned to solo duty. Why was this not an accomplishment?
Through the chair, we could not get that many deputies off of the list.
Okay. And through the chair, how many deputies are currently down in each division, and when will they be filled? And just to follow up to that, just to think, is the administration confident that our sheriff's office will be fully staffed by year's end?
Through the chair, so we are currently down 45 jail deputies, 46 roll patrol deputies, but that is due to the increase that we have for this year.
Okay.
We are putting on an academy starting next week of 26. And we
Okay.
believe we will fill those in the next academy in the spring, the remainder of those in the spring of 2024. So in the
Okay.
spring, we'll get that, the 26. And we're currently down 26 court deputies. So recruiting for our jail is our biggest hurdle. Getting enough people on the list. So every time we are completely exhausting the list, we are trying some new approaches with reaching out to corrections officers and working around corrections officers throughout the state, especially if they're downsizing, to try to get them to
Sure.
come here. We're also looking at the possibility of doing a drop program. I know the state police have introduced a bill, or introducing a bill for a drop program, which retains people at the end of their career, gets them to stay an extra few years, which would be very beneficial. So we could look for
Possibly look
legislative
at that.
support for that to try to keep more people instead of retiring. But, so we are planning on doing 2 classes of 25.
Okay.
And we are hopefully going to do more than that, but we'll just have to wait and see. But it is tricky getting people
I
into
underst-
the jail.
I understand.
If I can just add on to that, these, the under sheriff, Chief Deputy Fowler, when they had that REAC and staffing referral, did a really good job explaining how the county was staffed at the minimum level. And when someone takes vacation and someone else calls in sick with the flu, and someone is scheduled for jury duty, now they're below their safe staffing, especially in the road patrol. So that's why so many staff at least were added at that time, just so you can accommodate for those staff not able to attend their work shift. At the same time, just like full employment is defined as unemployment less than 5%, there's always turnover. So no matter what department we're talking about, I want to throw out there the caveat that 8 to 12% of vacancies is generally the norm. 8% is pretty good, 12% is high. But this county, throughout my 20 years, each department has had that roughly general 8 to 10% vacancy rate. So wise move to staff for those times when people are on vacation and sick. Totally full staffing.
And through the chair, we also have the added burden that when somebody retires, now we have to wait for the next academy before we can
Right.
fill. And then it's 8 months after that before they're actually working in that position. So you're operating short when all of that. So to try to get more staffing out all the time and to not always be paying overtime as soon as someone goes out with a shoulder injury is
Right.
very beneficial.
Thank you. Through the chair, on page 487, why do salaries increase by 300,000?
Oh, Mr. Chairman, this is Sheriff's Administration Division. They did shift over 2.5 FTEs
Okay.
from other divisions. Most of this, however, is pay and step increases required by contract.
Okay. And through the chair, following up on that, why do commercial services increase by $18,000?
There always are commercial services, but there is an increase in particular for 24 for a conference room renovation.
And following up on that, why, through the chair, why does equipment rise exponentially up to 24,000?
Actually, this is directly related to the conference room renovation. Once complete, they can actually equip it the way they need it to be.
And through the chair, why do technical supplies double?
This really is for the communications office and podcast rooms, and they're really just looking for new communications equipment to replace old equipment.
Okay. And through the chair, on page 489, roll call pay goes up $18,000. Is this a result of the latest approved union agreement?
Mr. Chairman, it is pursuant to the current collective bargaining agreement.
Okay. Okay. And through the chair, moving on to page 490. Why do salaries increase by 4 million? Is that a result of approved expansion?
The Police Bureau, Mr. Chairman, did increase by 56 FTEs. Most of them were approved earlier this year with that REAC and staffing referral. But then additionally, some additional movement between bureaus. That and contractual obligated pay and step increases really account for that increase in salaries.
Okay. And through the chair, why do occupational exams reimbursement decrease by $4,000 to
Actually,
zero?
Mr. Chair, we've actually eliminated that. The county used to have potential candidates pay for their own drug tests. If
Mhm.
it came back negative and they were hired, we would reimburse them, but we're not charging that up front.
Okay. And through the chair, why is the new line software licenses with $50,000 in funding included and what for?
This is specifically for REAC software that's supposed to be acquired during 2024, and it is a new line to try and aggregate our subscription-based IT services for financial reporting.
And through the chair, why does the clothing allowance increase by $90,000? Is that new uniforms for new deputies?
It is a combination, Mr. Chair, of new uniforms for new deputies, but also right-sizing the budgets for the police bureau. I think a lot of this used to be in staff services, but it's aligning with how the expenses are actually charged.
Okay. And through the chair, does the rental of space include the REAC?
It does, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And moving on to page 491, through the chair, why does equipment increase by $120,000?
Within the police bureau, Mr. Chair, this is really related to the new and replacement office furniture, cabinets. Actually, they have about marine engines
Okay.
and equipment for the REAC.
Okay. And through the chair, why do technical supplies increase by $192,000?
It was a relatively new initiative that has been expanded within the sheriff's office to acquire additional body worn cameras. Of course, the batteries that run them.
Okay. And through the chair, moving on to page 493, why do salaries increase by 3 million?
The jail bureau, Mr. Chair, although they did shift out some FTEs, other divisions, the budget is consistent with the current collective bargaining agreement for pay and step increases.
And through the chair, why do commercial services increase $300,000?
Most of this, Mr. Chair, most of the increase is related to the jail food and jail medical contracts.
Okay. And through the chair, moving on to page 494, why does the fuel increase from $0 to $34,000?
That's an interesting question. I don't have a note for that one.
Through the chair, we just changed from fuel to gas. They're two line items side by side. And it just moved from one to the other, and then the anticipated increased cost of gas.
Oh, okay. And just to follow up through the chair, why do office supplies increase by $75,000?
Through the chair, we determined that we had a problem with our legal mail coming into the jail where people were soaking it in K2 and sending it in.
Huh.
So as a prevention to keep drugs out of the jail, we now photocopy all legal mail in front
Okay.
of the person receiving it to make sure that so we open it, photocopy it in front of them and put their legal mail and copy it into property. But that process, there's a ton of legal mail.
I understand. All right, at this time, Mr. Chairman, I yield the floor.
Thank you, Legislator Milne. The floor is back to you. So,
Next, I've got this as sheriff's court security. Why do salaries increase by $1 million under this line? And why does the roll call pay increase by 190,000?
Even though, Mr. Chair, that 4.5 FTEs were transferred to other divisions, the salaries are in line with the collective bargaining agreement for pay and step increases, as is the current roll call pay.
And the clothing allowance from 0 to 28 through the chair?
Again, Mr. Chair, I believe this was in the past budgeted in staff services through the quartermaster and now being expensed, budgeted and expensed to court security, all the divisions.
Thank you. And under revenue, on page 651, I have that as Sheriff's Police Bureau. On page 651, is there a thought as to why state aid has increased by 120,000?
Mr. Chairman, can I just need some verification on the specific line?
Oh,
Is it
yeah,
an
I'm
individual
sorry.
state aid or aggregate?
I'll skip that question, sir.
Okay.
Page 652, FAJL facilities increases by $1 million.
Oh, jails facilities, I'm sorry. We have agreements with the U.S. Marshal Service, Mr. Chair, to detain federal prisoners, and they reimburse the sheriff's office for that.
Through the chair, we're also looking to change that rate. The last time it was changed was 2013. So we believe that we're going to get a rate increase to bring it closer to what we're actually spending.
And on that same page, why do charges to trust funds increase by 400,000?
Through the chair, we really try to hire a lot of rehab counselors, drug and alcohol counselors, and those are coming out of the commissary fund to increase the number of people that are there to help those that are incarcerated to try to get them over whatever addiction or whatever problem got them there. So those salaries are coming out of the trust fund.
On page 653, through the chair, looks like state aid is increasing by about $3 million. I'm looking at actually amended versus 2023 to 2024 budget.
State does reimburse, Mr. Chairman, the cost of our court security, other than the time they spend in the academy, but they reimburse us dollar for dollar.
And through the chair, again, could you explain why do charges to other governments get created as new line with $40,000 in revenue? What's that for? Could you remind me of that?
That is for this body, Mr. Chairman. This body will now reimburse the sheriff's office for the gentleman in uniform standing at the door.
That are so happy to be here. Thank you.
Taking the offices?
Yes. And through the chair on page 741. It appears that the FTEs for the sheriff's office are increasing by 45.5. While I am aware of the additional deputies through our recent expansion, can you elaborate on these FTE changes, including new titles, eliminated titles, or change groups?
Yeah, so we 43 out of the 45.5 are from the resolution that resolution 98, where we increased the number of deputies. We increased a drone operator for upcoming drone as a first responder and a clerk all for the REOC. Then we put a part-time records clerk. We added a system support specialist for our different systems. And I believe that is the 45.5 position.
Yep, move right on to the public defender,
Through the, I'm sorry.
except question 78.
Except those first couple of questions.
I got you, Mr. Franklin.
No.
You want me to read it?
No.
again?
No, I don't.
Through the chair, in 2023, increasing office diversity was listed as an objective. How successful have you been in improving office diversity, particularly among the attorneys who represent clients? And again, this is for the Office of Public Defender.
Through the chair. With regard to increasing office diversity, we're still struggling to attract qualified attorneys of diverse backgrounds. We've had a very successful hiring cycle, but unfortunately, that cycle has not resulted in being able to increase the attorney diversity. We have continued to be able to attract candidates in our support staff who bring diversity to the office, as well as our social worker staff. But at this point, we are still struggling to find attorney candidates.
Thank you. Through the chair, again, listed as major accomplishments, we claim that you greatly improved retention, which allows for representation that is more consistent and brings caseloads within American Bar Association caseload guidelines. Please tell us what the caseloads were last year and what they are now, and how they compare with the ABA recommended caseloads.
Through the chair, so our caseloads right now, they're not really capped at a specific number. There's a recommended number of cases that each attorney should be handling, and that's how we receive our funding through the Harrell Herring lawsuit settlement. Basically provides sufficient funds so that if we could find enough attorneys to fill the positions, no attorney would be handling caseloads that exceeded the ABA standards. We aren't fully staffed at this point. We're getting close. We're anticipating maybe by mid-March, if hiring continues at a pace it has been, that we will be fully staffed. But as of right now, the number of cases that have been coming in have resulted in us being probably a little bit over those standards in our violent felony bureaus. Our nonviolent felony bureaus and our local court bureaus are within guidelines, as well as our appeals bureau and family court bureaus. So far, we're probably 85% in compliance. I would say about that.
In 2020, through the chair, in 2022, there were only 348 cases taken to trial out of 9,516 cases handled by the Public Defender's Office. In 2023, out of 12,150 estimated cases, 500 were taken to trial. Felony trials were less than 1%, and misdemeanor trials were less than 0.5%. Out of the cases that weren't taken to trial, what were the dispositions? And I'm sure that varies, but charges dropped, plead to a lesser charge, plead to charges as brought by the DA's office, et cetera.
Through the chair, we keep those statistics. I don't have them handy, but I can get that information to you. So if I understand the question, you're asking the cases that did not proceed to trial, how were they ultimately resolved?
Yes.
Yeah, I can provide that information. You want that for the entire year from like 2023 to present, or?
Right.
Okay, we can get that.
If that's easily attainable.
It is.
Is the trend expected to continue in 2024? Explain the decision-making process that determines which cases will be taken to trial and why the number of trials, say, less than 5%. What goes into making that decision?
Through the chair, I'm on trial right now, so I can have a specific. The ultimate decision of whether or not a case proceeds to trial is in the hands of our clients. It's not the attorney's decision to make. Each specific attorney has an obligation to their specific client to provide them with all of their available alternatives. It could be that a trial proceeds because there is not an offer from the district attorney's office. It may proceed to trial because the offer is not acceptable to the client. There's any number of reasons why a case may settle versus proceed to trial. There's as many answers to that as there are trials, clients, and lawyers, and the variables. So I wouldn't really be able to give you a specific answer except to say it depends on the client and the client's assessment of the risk versus benefit of proceeding to trial versus accepting a plea bargain.
Next couple of questions are really, well, a couple appropriation questions and revenue questions. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
On page 483, Chair. Still under the public defender, though, salaries increased by $400,000. That just on increased salaries or benefits? Yep. And again, through the chair, commercial services increased by 30,000. And it looks like there's a line that has computer equipment dropping down to 0 from 33. Was it just that we had all the equipment we needed? Moving to page 648. It looks like state aid is increasing by about 250,000 from 95. Oh, 342, I'm sorry. State aid is increasing by 250 from 97,023 to 342. Yep. Thank you. Actually, moving back to a personnel question, through the chair, can you describe the personnel changes, if any, including any new or eliminated titles, any additions to existing titles, or any group changes, and why? Are there any major changes coming up in the?
Through the chair, I believe the only anticipated changes in personnel right now are changes to the designation of our legal secretaries. So we are looking to change their designation from legal secretary to, and I believe, to investigators. We're attempting to modernize how we both recruit, attract, retrain individuals with this, I'm sorry, paralegals, not investigators. It's been a long day. By updating the criteria and the designation from secretary to paralegal. So that's the one change that I'm aware of that we're able to make this year.
Do we have a representative from the DA's office? I have a couple fun or questions for that group. Thank you very much. Budget percentage breakdown questions. Through the chair, comparing the district attorney's office budget percentage breakdown, the pretrial services percentage has decreased from 16.1% in 2023 to 13.9% in 2024. Why is this?
Just to check, is this a reference to the pie chart on page 354?
So,
Can I hit,
354, let me go back to that one.
Chairman, I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yep. Through the chair, comparing the district attorney's office budget percentage breakdown, the pretrial services percentage has decreased from 16.1% in 2023 to 13.9% in 2024. I'm just looking at 2024.
Through the chair, Dawn Staub, DA Administrator. The reason the percentage has gone down is primarily because staffing in our pretrial services function, which is truly our grand jury function, has been consistent and unchanged, while other bureaus have increased in size. So therefore, consistency equals a smaller percentage in the budget.
Thank you. And follow up to that through the chair. In addition, on the pie chart, the support services has increased from 6.2% in 2023 to 8.1% in 2024. Why would that be?
Through the chair, that's because support services had added paralegal positions, also known as criminal law assistants. So they have grown over the year.
Thank you. Again, through the chair, this is a performance measuring question. Through the chair, comparing the district attorney's office performance measures, material witness warrants, and court presentation setup, tear down was added to the 2024 budget. Why is that?
Through the chair, over the past couple of years, we have noticed that the number of material witness warrants has increased to an actual measurable number that we decided to track. So we added that as a performance measure, and court presentation setup and tear down was added in the 2024 budget because in 2023, we terminated the services of an outside vendor and we brought those services in-house. So we wanted to track how much setup and tear down we were actually doing in our courtrooms for trials.
Thank you. Just a couple quick questions on appropriations. On page 357, appropriations by division, general felony decreases from 1,190,118 in 2023 to 958,846 in 2024.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I missed the bureau.
We're under the, on page 357. It's the Grand Jury Bureau, I believe, right? General. Yep.
But the budget to budget decline in appropriations, I guess, is primarily driven by the shifting of 3 of their ADAs to other bureaus. There are a number of other appropriations that drive the reduction, but primary.
Okay. And then, still under appropriations, the Major Felony Bureau increases from 1,648,818 in 2023 to 2,194,783. And looking at the proposed budget numbers, I believe, from 2023.
Mr. Chairman, Major Felony Bureau, as far as the shift of staff between bureaus, this picked up the greatest number of staff, almost a full 6 FTEs. Our higher level ADAs, that drove a significant increase in felonies.
My final question on page 472. Under appropriation, still DA Central Administration salaries increased from 3,033,433 in 2023 to 3,189,661.
All a pickup of 3 additional FTEs, Mr. Chair, plus the required pay and step increases.
Thank you, sir. I yield the floor.
Legislator Morris, you have the floor, and then I promise I'll get to you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the administration. On page 472, under appropriations, commercial services, decrease from 75,216 in 2023 to 42,136 in 2024. What's the reason for this decrease?
A lot of that decrease, Mr. Chair, or at least a good portion of that decrease is, it did have an online law subscription in prior years that has been moved to software licenses. But this particular line also encompasses the commercial services for the document destruction, all their file folders, their vending service, their printing of specialty forms
And again, through you, Mr. Chairman, on page 472, professional services increased from 125,000 in 2023 to 149,234 in 2024.
That is true. This particular line is a budget for all their expert witnesses and their like medical doctors, psychiatrists, social workers, but it also has language interpreters, stenographer fees. It's a little higher than it should be. I do have a little note that there's $57,000 of a software license that after the year will probably move up to that new account software licenses.
Thank you. And then, excuse me, again, through you, Mr. Chairman, page 473, total debt service decreased from 267,442 in 2023 to 246 in 2024. Is that from just paying off additional debt service, or what would result in that decrease?
It is from the reduction in debt service. It was primarily the case management system, which was only a 5-year payoff.
And again, through you, Mr. Chairman, on page 474, overtime is increasing from 0 in 2023 to 2,500 in 2024. What's the reason for that increase?
Does fluctuate, Mr. Chairman, from year to year. Typically, the DA has not really budgeted money here. This particular page does show expenses in calendar year 22, when the courts were just coming back up and running at full calendars. So this may or may not actually be expensed, but the budget was there just in case.
Thank you. And again, through you, Mr. Chairman, on page 480, appropriations for Major Felony Bureau line items for contractual services were added this budget year. Why was travel and professional services allocated finances this year and not in the past for this bureau?
Some of this, Mr. Chairman, is grant funded. The Major Felony Bureau receives it's the GIVE grant, Gun Involved Violence Elimination. So the department will appropriate that grant into some of these lines. For example, mileage, they accepted $4,000 of the GIVE grant into that account. Travel is funded to the extent of $2,000 expected from the GIVE grant. So just changes in that particular allocation of grant funding.
And jump into fuel appropriations. They're up by nearly 30,000. Is this expected to be enough to cover the drastically increasing prices in fuel?
So interesting, Chairman, I don't actually see that line on this page or another one. And the cost of gasoline really is not skyrocketing.
If I find it, I'll follow up with you on that. Couple revenue questions, on page 357, department, budget, state aid increases from $669,777 in 2023 to $1,117,358 in 2024. Where's the additional state aid, coming from?
Primarily, Mr. Chairman, and the amendment budget for 2023 does include $3.97 million of grant funding. District Attorney receives funding from the Department of Public Safety, specifically probation. It's their Swift, Certain, and Fair grant, where they reimburse the District Attorney's Office 80% of a senior ADA. So that really is, sorry, I'm on the wrong line, but it's still $3.97 million of grant funding in the amended budget for 23. Only $1 million worth of grant funding is currently included in the proposed budget for 24. So that's the major difference, current year to the proposed year.
And then again, through Mr. Chairman, page 645, under revenues, DA Major Felony Bureau, the state aid increases from $296,574 in 2023 to $744,155 in 2024. Do we know what state aid programs this increase is coming from?
I missed the page number, Mr. Chairman.
645?
And I do want to comment on that state aid. The DA's office received huge discovery grant in 23. Yeah, over $2 million. Probably not going to see that level of funding repeated, but maybe not necessarily go away. Mr. Chairman, were we on page 645?
645, yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Revenues, Major Felonies Bureau.
Thank you.
State aid increase.
The, that state aid, at least for the 23 amended and the 24 proposed, is related to the GIVE grant. Prior to that, it was the aid to localities prosecution grant.
Thing in, last question, through Mr. Chairman, on page 740, DA personnel. Through you again, Mr. Chairman, can you please explain the personal changes from 2024? There seems to be 2 additional full-time employees with several title additions, reductions, changes. If you could list or explain those in a little bit more detail.
Through the chair, in 2023, we had 161.5 full-time equivalents. Our 2024 staffing is 169.5 full-time equivalents. That's an increase of 8 FTEs. Those are all for the non-fatal shooting initiative that was created mid-2023. That includes 4 attorneys, 2 investigators, and 2 support staff. In addition, there are 3 position upgrades in the budget. A chief of homicides is created at a group 23. We got rid of a deputy bureau chief to do that. A confidential assistant to the DA was increased to a group 17. And we created a senior digital services coordinator, group 16, an increase from a group 14.
Thank you. I yield the floor.
Legislator Hugh Smith, the floor is finally yours.
Much. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration. Could you clarify which of the following are required by the Monroe County Charter? Police Bureau, Jail Bureau, and
Well, Mr. Chairman, the Jail Bureau is required by the state of New York. Court is through a contract with State Office of Court Administration. And no, at least no charter requirement or state requirement for the road patrol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, administration. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, the data on the road patrol, the zone A, B, C, and so forth, the chart, I believe it is 374, indicates that there were fewer calls for service 2013 through 2021 in all zones for all those years than there were calls in 2022 and estimated for 2023. To what do you attribute the reduction?
Through the chair, Chief Deputy Fowler for the Sheriff's Office. There is no single indicator for the change in calls and service over the years. It is a wide variable, and certainly we can account over the past 4 or so years the same issues that the rest of the community has faced with the COVID-19 pandemic probably has some influence on that, but there is no specific indicator that we can reference.
So it's just good luck that we don't have as much demand in the last 2 years as all the preceding years.
Through the chair, what I would caution you on is looking at that short window of time. Because if you look all the way back to 1994, there is a significant increase, but it is very similar to a roller coaster. It varies between years, but overall, since 1994, there's been a very significant increase.
Oh, that is very helpful, Deputy Chief Fowler. Would you be able to provide us with that data? Because I didn't see it in the budget book.
I can, it's not included in the budget book, but I can provide the reference that we have.
Through also listed on page 375, it appeared that most major crimes that, most crimes rather that you listed on page 375 are down. So to what do you attribute this success?
Through the chair, are you referencing a specific performance indicator?
The crimes that are listed on page 370. There's several that you've listed and lower. And
So what you're looking at for 2023 is an estimate. Until we get to the end of the year, we won't know where those numbers actually end up. The other piece of information that's important is that that estimate was conducted in May of this year when we only had 5 months of data.
And so the estimates for 2024, are you basically just taking like average between the 2022 and?
Through the chair, that's correct. We usually take an average unless we have some specific piece of information that might lead us to lean in another direction, for instance, a change in the law or something like that.
Thank you so much.
Questions?
Mr. Chairman, can I make one correction to prior answer? The police bureau is required by the county charter.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other questions. Oh, Legislator Delvecchio Hoffman, I'm sorry. Floor is yours.
I won't take, through the chair of the administration, apologies if this was asked and answered. It's been a long night, but what's the updated number of vacant deputy sheriff positions?
Through the chair, can you reference a specific bureau or more specific question?
Of I think it was 41 road patrol that we added this year. How many of those are still unfilled?
believe the undersheriff said something around, there was 45 and then there's 25 that are starting the academy coming up shortly.
Yes, through the chair, I can provide the specific in a few minutes here as I get to the right page, but in general, that is approximately the right number. We have about 46 vacancies and we've just hired 27 people. The remainder of those vacancies we anticipate to fill by the May Academy.
How long, through the chair, does it take for them to go through the academy?
Through the chair, it's about a 10-month process. Once they begin their first day of work, it's about 10 months after that where before they can work on their own and actually count towards our positive staffing.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Excellent. The next item on the, thank you everyone for your time and your due diligence answering all these questions for us. I know it's been a long night. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the October 24th, 2023 minutes before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day, which is coming up very shortly. Next item on the agenda is new business, Mr. Clerk.
Referral 23-0394, amend resolution 305 of 2020 as amended by resolution 410 of 2021 to extend the time period of the grant from the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services for the Operation Stone Garden program and to permit the town of Arundecoit to seek reimbursement for equipment.
Moved by legislator Milne, seconded by legislator Colby. Is there any discussion? Being none, all those, yes, sir. Oh.
Through the chair to the administration, or to the chair, what was the equipment purchased by Arundecoit?
Through the chair, the Arundecoit Police Department elected to use their funding, their remaining funding towards a four-wheel utility type vehicle.
And follow-up question, sir, if I may, what was the reasoning for reimbursing Arundecoit or the Arundecoit Police Department for this equipment?
Through the chair, this is the standard practice for Homeland Security grants of this type, Operation Stone Garden specifically. The federal government does not wish to contract with each and every agency, so they use the major local agency as an intermediary, and then we distribute the money from there.
And one more follow-up question, which may be legal. How is it possible no county funding is required through the chair, I'm sorry, if is required if an IMA is entered into for equipment reimbursement?
Through the chair, that again is because we are only the intermediary. The money merely passes through the county towards Arundecoit. We do not have to fund that at all.
Thank you, sir. I yield.
Any other discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Passes. Next item. Sorry.
Referral number 23-0395, acceptance of a grant from the New York State Office of Indigent Legal Services for the Offices of the Public Defender and Conflict Defender for the provision of indigent legal services.
By legislator Colby, seconded by legislator Morris. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 23-0396, acceptance of a grant from the New York State Office of Indigent Legal Services for the Office of the Public Defender, Conflict Defender, and the Monroe County Assigned Counsel Office for the Caseload Reduction Program.
Moved by legislator Morris, seconded by legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion on this? None, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries.
Referral number 23-0397, acceptance of a grant from the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services for the 2023 to 2024 Aid to Crime Laboratories Program.
Moved by legislator Delahanty, seconded by legislator Milne. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral number 23-0398, authorized intermunicipal agreements with other counties for forensic laboratory services provided by the Monroe County Crime Lab.
Moved by legislator Milne, seconded by legislator Colby. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral number 23-0399, acceptance of a grant from the New York State Governor's Traffic Safety Committee for the Child Passenger Safety Program.
Moved by legislator Colby, seconded by legislator Morris. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral number 23-0400, acceptance of a grant from the New York State Stop DWI Foundation for DWI High Visibility Engagement Campaign Enforcement and authorize agreements with 10 municipalities and 2 state entities.
Moved by legislator Morris, seconded by legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
For number 23-0401, acceptance of a grant from the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services for the County Reentry Task Force Program and authorize a contract with Delphi Drug and Alcohol Council.
Moved by legislator Delahanty, seconded by legislator Milne. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral number 23-0402, authorizing any municipal agreement with the city of Rochester for a firearms instructor.
Moved by legislator Milne, seconded by legislator Colby. I need to declare my interest for that. And is
No.
there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral number 23-0403, acceptance of a grant from the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services for the FY 2023 Emergency Management Performance Grant.
Moved by legislator Colby, seconded by legislator Morris. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral number 23-0404, acceptance of a grant from the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services for the FY 2023 State Homeland Security Program and authorize a contract with the University of Rochester.
Moved by legislator Colby, or I'm sorry, legislator Morris, seconded by legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion on this? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral number 23-0405, acceptance of a grant from the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services for the FY 2023 State Law Enforcement Terrorism Prevention Program.
Moved by legislator Delahanty, seconded by legislator Milne. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral number 20-0409, amend the 2024 through 2029 capital improvement program in the 2024 capital budget to add a project entitled PSTF Fire Training Grounds Expansion, authorize financing for the project, authorizing any municipal agreement with the city of Rochester, and acceptance of a gift from the Monroe Community College Foundation.
Moved by legislator Milne, seconded by legislator Colby. Is there any discussion on this? One quick question, if anybody's here, where is this project taking place at the Public Safety Training Grounds?
Through the chair, Sean Murphy, Chief Engineer. Public safety training facilities on the south side of the airport on Scottsville Road across from FedEx facility. And at the south end of that facility, there's the they have the simulator for airport emergencies and that type of thing. So there's a 2 bay garage back there already. We're going to expand that and make it a 3-bay garage to store additional equipment.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral number 23-0411, amend resolution 365 of 2021 to increase the contract for public safety psychology for occupational, psychiatric, and psychological testing.
Moved by legislator Colby, seconded by legislator Morris. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral number 23-0414, acceptance of a grant from the United States Department of Justice Office on Violence Against Women for the Improving Criminal Justice Responses Grant Program, also known as the ARREST Program, and authorizing any municipal agreement with the city of Rochester and contract with the Legal Aid Society of Rochester, New York, Planned Parenthood of Central and Western New York, and Willow Domestic Violence Center of Greater Rochester.
Moved by legislator Morris, seconded by legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion on this? Yes, sir. Good. Other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Are there any other matters that come before this committee? There being no other matters, the November 28th, 2023 meeting of the Public Safety Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Public Safety Committee will be announced.